What the flub?
Is a Fediverse.
What's the difference between a boost and a toot? And which instance should you join? We're going to cover all this and more as we talk about Mastodon, the new social network, and why you might want to join it. Let's tech enhance your primary care and learning. After the purchase of Twitter by Elon Musk, many people have jumped over to a social network called Mastodon instead of using Twitter itself. And in this episode, I'm going to give you a guide of how to use Mastodon, how to get started on it, the peculiarities of the network itself, and more importantly, where you should join. Big question answered for you. But as we look at all of this, it's important to know where to get started, and more importantly, why. Twitter is one of the main popular social networks that many people have been using, and since Elon Musk purchased it, many people are looking for an alternative because they're not sure the direction that it may go in. Mastodon, as a decentralized social network, which means that basically nobody really owns it, has become one of the more popular alternatives and has seen a significant increase in user base over the past couple of weeks. But it's not that simple to get started with, so I'm going to show you where you get started and what you need to know to use it more effectively. The first thing you need to do is join an instance. What on earth is an instance? Well, think of an instance like a Facebook group or as an email server. You join it, you get access to the content that it gives. And that is effectively the community that you're joining into. There are various different ones you can join, and one of the most popular ones is Mastodon.social. Although instances can be based around geographical areas like the UK, America, that kind of stuff, or around various topics such as health, technology, and other interests, for example. I started off by joining the primarycare.app one created by Aitro. And in a sense, it is important to know who you join through because your username is based on who you join through. So for example, my username is @drgandalf, but because I joined through the primarycare.app instance, my complete username is @drgandalf @primarycare.app. See where I said it was kind of like an email address? By joining that instance, I can interact with all the members of that instance easily, and it kind of looks a little bit like Twitter. We're going to have a look at that in a second. But then, what is the Fediverse? Well, the Fediverse is when you combine different instances together, and you can do that. So, for example, if I'm in the instance primarycare.app, and there's somebody over there in one of the other instances, such as Mastodon.social, and I wanted to talk to them, well, I can search for them using their username, like their email address, and then contact them, and that creates the first connection from my instance to their instance. And that allows those connections to start forming. And that brings it through to my thread so I can see comments, stuff from them, and allows me to see other people in their instance because I might want to then follow any of their followers. This starts creating connections between instances, and that is the Fediverse. It's important to know that each instance will have its own specific rules, and as a result, the administrators of those instances can decide that actually, if there's some speech going on from one instance they don't really like, they can cut that off, so therefore it doesn't apply to their rules and stuff. And that's why it's really important that when you join an instance, you read the individual rules of that instance to make sure that you understand and abide by it. Mastodon itself as an organisation is very keen to try and stay away from hate speech and various other aspects, which is why they have certain verified groups on their key page, joinmastodon.org, that directs you to instances that have been verified and that they feel are suitable to join. You can join a private instance which doesn't interact with other people, and that's completely fine. That's the real benefit of this network. It's what we want to make it. It's important to note there is no advertising on any of the instances, so therefore this is all self-funded, although some instances may be doing things like crowdfunding in order to generate income to manage it all, because it's a load of work. If you've ever run a Facebook group, you know how much work it can be. So that should be it. You get logged on and it's dead easy from there, yeah? Not quite. So we take a look at what it looks like, and this should hopefully show you what you need to know to use Mastodon effectively. So to register, find the instance you want to join. For example, this is the primarycare.app, and you simply need to click on sign in if you've already got an account, or more likely create account. It's important to note for this instance, it's ideal that you use your nhs.net account because this helps with the verification process. Once you've joined, you may see something that looks a little bit like this. Yeah, it kind of looks a little bit like Twitter, doesn't it? Important to note, I've got the dark theme on already. I'm not a big fan of the light theme, which is why it looks so, well, dark. and I'll show you how you can change this in a second. You have your main feed, and important to note, this is chronological. There's no algorithm showing you who you need to look at and stuff. It's simply time and date order. On the left, you've got where you can put a toot, which is what Mastodon calls tweets. And you have a character limit of 500 compared to Twitter's 280 characters. You can attach images, videos, or other kind of stuff. You can add a poll. You can change the post privacy to whether you want it to just be within your instance, within the Fediverse, or other areas like a DM. You can put a content warning on the post. This is really useful for spoilers or for that kind of stuff, or if you've got a trigger warning, for example. And this basically means that viewers will see a quick little spoiler before they want to expand to see the full content. And you can change the language as well, which is a kind of new feature that's just been added in the past day or two. At the top, you can add emojis and various other things as well. And it's pretty simple to use. Important to note, there's no threaded conversation, so you are limited to your 500 characters within each toot. However, one feature that Mastodon has that Twitter does not is the edit feature. So this is my profile. As you can see, I've got a banner, I've got my avatar, I've got a little bit of information about me, and you can put various links to other social networks or places you want to direct people. Got your follow accounts and stuff, and you've got my most recent tweet, which would a Mastodon video be useful for everybody? Kind of hope it would be. The breakdown of once you've posted a toot is very simple. You can reply to the toot using this function here. As you can see, not currently got any replies. You can boost a toot. So this is the similar thing as a retweet, and this does share it to other people within your followership. You can favorite it. This doesn't show up on other people's feeds though. And you can bookmark the toot as well. As with most social networks, you can share it using the share icon. But if you click on the three dots, it also gives you additional features, which included in this is the edit function. So by clicking on that, I can change the post itself and add or change any content. Really good for that autocorrect and saving stuff. As you can see on the right hand side, you've got various other things you can look at. So you can go back to your home thread, check out any notifications, explore, which at the moment doesn't have a huge amount of information because, well, really just started. You can look at your local timeline, which is the one based within your insight, or you can look at your federated timeline, which includes stuff from other people that you're following outside of your instance. You can use direct messaging, just like you would in other social networks and stuff. You can look at your favorites, your bookmarks, and you can create lists. One place I would really recommend that you have a look at is go to your preferences. By clicking on that, you can change the various different aspects of Mastodon that you want to use. So I mentioned earlier about the theme that you may want to have a look at. As I said, I like the dark one. You may prefer the light. You can enable an advanced web interface, which gives you more content that you can have a look at. So if you tick that on, it looks more like the TweetDeck interface that some people may have used before. And just to show you what that looks like, this is it. As you can see, a lot more columns, a lot more stuff you can do, and you can set this up to follow particular parts. So for example, you have one column just for your local timeline, you can have another one for your federated timeline. It can make more easier for you to manage if you like this kind of content. While there are dedicated apps that you can use to manage Mastodon, I've actually found alternative ones to be slightly more effective. In particular, I really like the Tusky app for Android users that just seems to work a lot more fluidly than the original Mastodon app itself. That may change over time. It did with Twitter. I remember when I started using Twitter, I used a different app to the Twitter one, but then Twitter started becoming a lot better at doing it. Going back to the settings, you can also have a play with the various different stuff, so you can slow it down. You can add in animations and stuff as you choose. You can confirm whether or not people follow you and stuff, and also various other settings like the media displays and things. Other things you can look at are notifications, and you can determine how you get all your different notifications. So you can be notified when someone follows you, when somebody favorites one of your posts, just like you would in most social networks. You can get email notifications. I switch this off because I think it's really annoying and stuff otherwise. And you can have a look at other settings which give you a lot more control in terms of how things look at. You can check out your followers and who you follow. You can also set filters. Now this is a really interesting feature that's very similar to what happens in Twitter in that you can block out particular posts and comments if you want to. So by adding a new filter, you can choose the title of the filter, so you've got what it wants, how long it lasts for, and then you can apply that to different areas that you've got. And then you can either hide it with a warning or you can hide it completely. Now this may be useful if there's a particular thing happening that you don't really want to see in your timeline. I guess recently we had loads of stuff about the Tory elections and stuff, and if it was a bit of an information overload, then you could have blocked a lot of that content out or chosen to look at it if you wanted to. Additionally, Mastodon has an automated post deletion system. So you can automatically delete old posts, and you can set the time frame for how long your posts stay there. This would be useful obviously if you have a time sensitive account, and it has various exceptions, so you can keep pinned posts, direct messages, stuff you've bookmarked and favorited and stuff, and that can be really useful if you want to use it in those particular reasons. Also lets you look at trends and various other content as well, and there's various other settings that you can have a look at, some of which you may have access to, some of which you may not, based on whether or not you're a moderator, an admin, or various other features within a group or instance. Got to remember to keep calling them instances, haven't we? So we've covered a lot of content in terms of what you need to look at to using Mastodon. One thing we haven't looked at is how you actually follow people. Well, I mentioned earlier that you need to use their email address, or basically their username, in order to find them. Once you've got that, it's dead easy. You just search for it. So for example, if we're going to search for someone really famous, let's try Stephen Fry. I just go to the search page, pop in his actual username, so his is @stephenfry@mastodonapp.uk, click search, and as you can see I've been brought up Stephen Fry's profile. I can then choose to follow him, or I can click on it and then decide whether I want to follow him or not. He's doing pretty well, 37,000 followers already on Mastodon. Wow. So what do you think of Mastodon? Is this a social network you want to join? If you do and you're based in primary care, think about joining the primarycare.app instance. You'll be able to join myself and various other people in primary care, trying to understand how we can make it all a little bit more effective using the new social network. Don't worry, I haven't left Twitter, I'm still there, and you're more than welcome to follow me at drgandalf52 on Twitter. And if you do want to follow me on Mastodon, it's at drgandalf at primarycare.app. Should you use it as a GP practice or other organisation? Not quite sure yet. I think it's more definitely for the personal users. Or if you are wanting to look at how you can use social media as a practice, check out this video right here that will show you exactly how to do all of that really quickly and really easily.